Couture's charge count goes up. David Cunningham, he is tracking that on Twitter.
He is one of the...
All right, everyone, welcome in on a Wednesday, 3304 Daily. Dan Steinbach, Ryan Wilkes back in the producer chair. We've got Colbjorn Bergstrom as co-host today. Welcoming back Julian Ferdman as well in another content role. And then in the screener position today, we want to welcome aboard Brian Kearney. Brian, tell us a little about yourself.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, my name's Brian. I'm a junior here at Tech, and I'm actually a physics major, but I've been doing a lot of sports stuff since I was young, playing baseball, that kind of thing. Big baseball guy, Mets fan, but I've been doing a lot of sports stuff for 3304, done a lot of broadcasting so far for volleyball, soccer, you name it. Yeah, that's been pretty much it. Excited for spring and what's to come with baseball and softball.
3304 Daily, already expanding horizons. Shout out non-SMA major. One of my fellow, we got like three of us in here. It's just me. I know we got a CS in there, and we got me, and then we got you. So good on us, pushing boundaries. All right. So I want to throw the number out real quick. I want to keep Brian busy today because there is just one thing. I don't want to, have it be the focus of today's show, but I do know that it is something that, could bring up some conversation. I just want to mention at the top of the show, we can get some everyone's thoughts here, and then we can get into the meat of today. I want to talk about the spring game and the fact that it is being held on April 16th. Obviously, very somber day in Virginia Tech. Historical, the mass shooting that happened here, and the fact that it's the 15th anniversary. I do kind of want to get everyone's thoughts on it. So I'm going to throw the number out, 540-216-2231. Text us there with your thoughts, opinions on it, as well as in the YouTube live chat. We'll make sure that we're monitoring that as well. So I want to bring that up. Here's the thing. I really don't know, the strength of my opinion on this, only because when it happened, I was A, too young, and B, not close enough to the situation. I did not grow up a Virginia Tech fan. I did not grow up anywhere near the area. But I understand the weight that this has on the community here. So I can certainly understand the pushback from the announcement from yesterday that the game is being, played on the 16th, and the future schedule for this fall is being announced on Monday night. So I can understand it because, let's be real, if a large part of that day is dedicated to, tailgating, partying, watching football, it can, detract from what could be a real serious day for remembrance and commemoration. But I'm going to hold out hope. I think that the staff wants to be respectful in any way they can. I think that the athletic department wants to be respectful in any way they can. I have no doubts that there will be some sort of memorial or commemorative ceremony before the game, and I think they can do it with class. But if you guys have just negative thoughts on it, hit us up on the text line or in the YouTube live chat. I do want to go around the room real quick, and then we'll get into the meat of today.
Yeah, I just want to say that I can get the kind of hesitancy behind this. It is a very serious day and a very, sad day in the history of Virginia Tech. But I remember there was a game, I believe last year, baseball game. They did a great job honoring and, taking time. It wasn't just like a quick moment of silence to get right into it. Throughout the day, it was kind of like, they were honoring the people that were lost, but also celebrating the history of Virginia Tech and just being in that moment. And it was kind of like a celebration of the lives lost and, knowing that, we're not going to sit in fear anymore. So I think that was really powerful. And I think the right steps will be taken in order to properly honor the lives lost, because this day will never be forgotten. It will always be remembered in the history of Virginia Tech, but I do think they will take the steps in order to properly honor those lives.
I just know that that's a concern. Does anyone else have any quick thoughts on it before we get into a lot of baseball talk? Colbjorn, you're in the co-host chair today. Do you have any quick thoughts, feelings?
Yeah, I agree with Ryan. Personally, I wouldn't know the baseball example from last year, but that's something I was going to specifically touch on. This staff, everyone that even works up here, like even it's the highest of high. with that like being like our president Tim Sands and whatnot, they all know what this day is. We all know it, not only as students but also alumni, and they know the importance of it. And I think that they'll treat it with a lot of respect. I think they picks the days. I think they knew when they're picking that day, and I think they kind of have an idea, or at least have some sort of grasp of what they want to do to be able to honor those who were lost. And I think you just kind of got to trust the people there, and I mean, just that they'll be able to treat such a day with the respect that it deserves.
I think they will. I really do. Again, I know that there's the concern, and I know that, some people may take advantage of that day and, just use it as, a day to be loud, go to Center Street, all that. But honestly, I don't know if it's necessarily worth the energy to, point out those people and say that they're doing something wrong. I do think if they are, taking away from what that day means, then that is definitely a problem. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that the people that matter in this situation and the decisions they make, it comes from the university and it comes from the football team and any other, athletics program that is playing on that day. Because I know it's a busy weekend that weekend. So yeah, I mean, I did want to just get a quick mention of it. And once again, if you guys have any thoughts on it, 540-216-2231, as well as YouTube live chat. All right, want to move on now because, oh man, there's just a lot of baseball news to get into. And if you guys are interested in that, strap in, because pre-show today was pretty exciting in regards to the amount of talking we were able to do, just covering some basic topics. So where do we want to start? I think I want to start, let's start with just the lockout. I think the lockout is, it's tough to say easier to start with because it can be a complicated issue. But at the end of the day, if you're just following along with it, it kind of is just becoming this dance between the owners and the players of like, okay, when is a deal going to get done, if anything? I mean, there is some leverage going on, but it's hard for me to stay positive. I mean, especially as we're coming up on, I mean, when do pitchers and catchers report? They start reporting in, like a couple of weeks, right? So, I don't know. It's, I really don't know. I'm not going to go full doomsday yet and say we're not going to have a season or we're going to lose like a month's worth of games, but, something's approaching fast. And, we're going to have a deal sooner rather than later. So I do want to just give you guys a quick rundown. Jeff Passan, ESPN writer, has a very nice article. He's actually coming to Blacksburg, Baseball Night in Blacksburg. I want to say that's the 13th. So who knows? Maybe by then we'll have a deal. Probably not. Here we go. So he's got an article up on ESPN, just updating it. It is him and Jesse Rogers, two baseball writers for ESPN. So basically how it's been going down is that back in December, basically they were saying that, hey, we don't have a CBA. And since then we've had 3 meetings. We had one on the 13th, and then we've had 2 just in the last 2 days. Not meeting again today, sometime within the next week seems to be the thing. And right now, again, it's just all coming down to money. And, the players want more, the owners don't want to spend as much. Right now they're tied up in a lot of arbitration money. Basically what they want, and something that the players have already dropped from negotiations from what I'm seeing, is that players just want younger players to be able to have more freedom, more agency. And owners just quite aren't ready to give them that yet, which I think is insane because, I mean, Juan Soto should already be making $50 million a year, but he's just not able to. And he won't be able to for, when his team control up from the Nationals, like 2030 something. It's just insane, and it's unfair to the youth. The really talented young players, they come up and then they go through the minor league system, and then they have like 8 years worth of control until they hit free agency, and then service time. Manipulation has always been a big thing that some people point to as a problem. Basically, right now, Major League Baseball and the Players Union. The Players Union wants like $100 million in pre-arbitration contract money. Basically, that's saying, hey, we want this money to be able to go to the best young players before they reach the end of their initial team control, and the owners aren't going for it. They they lowballed them. They have like 10 million. So right now that's kind of where the money is. That's where the stalemate is. But the fact is, both sides do want to get something done. It just comes down to now, all right, negotiating down and negotiating up to see where the number lies. I want to get your quick thoughts on this because I know that the Hall of Fame is a much sexier topic when it comes to, baseball right now. I know that labor disputes aren't exactly the most fun thing. I just remember 2020, COVID, them trying to negotiate and bang out a shortened season was painful to, follow along with for the 4 months it went on. And I was legitimately concerned that we weren't going to have baseball season. I'm not there yet. I'm not pressing the panic button yet. Nothing from Passan, nothing from any of the writers is telling me otherwise. But outside of this, I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. And really, where do you stand? And, do you think we get a settlement? Do you think we get something and spring training arrives on time?
I mean, from what you even say there, and from what even I know about baseball, I mean, you know me, I don't have the most expansive knowledge. I think that when you look at even other sports as a whole, the youth is probably the most important thing to any sport. That's how players come to shine. Think about Bryce Harper before he got his contract, 4 years ago now from the Phillies. He was someone who was a star for the Nationals, someone who was in that MVP type of conversation, et cetera, et cetera. And if the Nationals could have given him a lot of money then when their team was getting locked up with all this other stuff, they may have locked him down. And, or, if they had the inclination to, that they had to, they could have locked him down and he could still be a national alongside Juan Soto and everything else, because they had to take that initiative to keep him rather than being able to hold him onto this very, cheaper contract than what he was merited. And then obviously he went to the Phillies and got what, he was merited around that time. And what you said with Juan Soto should be making way more money than he is right now. He's an incredible player. He's one of the better ones in the league, and yet he's not. So I think the players are absolutely in the right for what they want. I think if you look at other leagues, they reward talent as well with not only bigger contracts out of the gate, depending on the talent. I mean, just even think of the NFL draft and how the players at the higher points are going to be getting more money and etc. And I think that type of stuff does need to change to where those younger stars can not only even get that money when they should be getting it, but then also maybe that can be an inclination for these teams to be a little bit more aggressive rather than having as something that I think you and I've even discussed that I find weird, the fact that you can have a 13-year contract and basically be strapped down to a team, which just kind of, I don't know, it doesn't make things interesting.
Well, I think that this has to do a lot with the homegrown talent as well. And, I mean, one example that I can think of, obviously we just brought up Juan Soto. I mean, Ryan, your Yankees. Aaron Judge, homegrown talent, went through the minor league system, has been up in the majors since 2016, and he didn't start making what would that be, 8 figures, at least $10 million. He didn't start making that until just this past season. And he's been playing, all-star caliber baseball since 2017 when he won Rookie of the Year. I mean, it just seems ridiculous that he isn't able to get his money sooner.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And like Colburn said, some of these players that are arguably some of the best players in the league deserve to be making this money. And they deserve to, if they feel like holding out's the right decision, they need to do that in order to get their money because they're playing top-level baseball. Aaron Judge had one of his best seasons, if not his best season as a Yankee this year. I mean, he was fantastic. And, I'm with Colbjorn. If they need to do this, then that's what they got to do.
I mean, also, too, it just seems crazy that the number that we're getting hung up on here is like $100 million. Every single owner is worth, I think, at least $1 billion. I think that's what someone found out last season. Even the cheaper owners or the, not as rich owners can find this money. I have no doubt in my mind that they can at least get pre-arbitration bonuses up to $80 million. I see no reason why, but this was just the thing again with the 2020 negotiations. It was just owners didn't want to, money up. They didn't want to take the loss initially. They wanted to take as little loss as possible. It's like, if you're not in this business just to produce winning baseball and rather you're just only here to make money, I really think you shouldn't be owning a baseball franchise. And that comes to me with any sports owner. If you are not in the business of building a real sports contender and building a real championship team as an owner, and you're just in it for the money, I think you really just got to get it out of town. That doesn't matter where you are. It just means you're not serious to me about owning a sports franchise. And I think it's just showing it again, because if labor can win out on this, we can see the players, unionize. We can see, again, the closer it gets to it, and it seems like these talks are going better, the fact that more and more are happening. Nothing necessarily has been agreed to, but the steps are being taken. If, we get a settlement, I really feel like it's not going to be so split down the middle. I really feel like the players can come out on top on this one. And I want to see that happen, because I don't like when owners are just, leveraging and, playing poor and not willing to pony up the money, because they have it. They really do. And it would tell me that they're just not serious enough.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Just the sentiment from baseball owners over the past decade to 15 years, really, it's kind of been lousy, in my opinion. Just looking at how they've treated their minor leaguers, looking at how the wage scale is in baseball. Like when you're a great player, like Anthony Rendon, for example, he left the Washington Nationals and got paid for past production. But it's very rare that happens for your average players, around the league. And so I think just to be able to establish a more fair wage structure for the players would be huge out of this out of these negotiations, right? And so for the union, I think they should be targeting that. And I also think that trading draft picks is also going to be something that could be huge with this next collective bargaining agreement, because in basically every other major North American sport that can happen. So yeah, I think that's one thing to also keep an eye on with these negotiations.
And one thing too, and I think the players also had to drop this, they wanted to have free agency happen earlier. Like they wanted to, have less team control, because think about it like this. Carlos Correa is probably the top free agent overall in this class, or at least one of them. Top free agent shortstop at minimum, if you want to consider that. He was also like the youngest player in this past free agency class, and he still doesn't have a team, by the way. But it's crazy to think about. He's 27 years old. A lot of these free agents, I brought up Aaron Judge earlier, and I know that he's had his injury, so maybe it wasn't the best example in terms of paying a guy for his value. But Aaron Judge is going to be 31 next year. That's when he's a free agent, and a lot of teams aren't comfortable with getting free agents that are over 30 and having to pay the 8-year contracts that it takes to get these high level players. And I that's just a system that the owners have created and backed themselves into. So I would really like to see a collective bargaining agreement that is, pro player. It allows for, earlier exit. And it's part of the reason I think too that, baseball just continues to fall behind, other sports and in the eyes of the public. It's like the players that we know, by the time they're free agents, by the time they're ready to move on to a title contender, it's a very good chance that they're already out of their prime. And it really just ends up not being fair to them and not being able to have the agency that they want. And at the end of the day, too, the young stars not being able to get the money that they deserve. Like Juan Soto should be the highest paid player in baseball. It's ridiculous that he can't be. He could be, but obviously, in terms of roster building, you're not going to do that. But here, I'm gonna pull that up, and then we're gonna segue out of here. I just want to, see when does he become a free agent? I'm gonna pull up his spot track.
I think it's like 2024 or 25.
So this year he's making $15.5 million, and then that I don't even know what that purple stands for, but it means that it's not his base salary. And then he's got his third and fourth years of arbitration coming up in 23 and 24, and then 25 is when he becomes an unrestricted free agent. And arbitration as a whole is just a mess sometimes. But point blank, White, I really just want to see some progress, and hopefully we get a meeting next week, and we can move forward from there. All right, I want to move on, and if you have thoughts on any of this, 540-216-2231. All right, the big baseball story came out yesterday, and it came with the conclusion of the Hall of Fame voting, and David Ortiz makes it in. I think he finished with over 80% of the vote. You need to at least 75, and then your two runners-ups, you had Barry Bonds at 66. He is now off the ballot because he has been on for 10 years. And then Roger Clemens, I think, is just a tick below him at 65. He is also off the ballot after his 10th year. The thing with both of those guys, obviously, is the story with their respective steroid scandals. But man, the Barry Bonds thing to me just is it's another example, and I think it goes hand in hand really with the whole labor dispute thing. Baseball is just flatlining, or at the very least, it's just being forgotten about. The American public, I think, is just becoming apathetic towards it. I don't think that there is, day over day, hunger for baseball. The postseason, and that's the thing too. Postseason play, like this past playoffs, were some like incredibly high ratings. The ratings were back. They had a lot of momentum, and now they're just coming to a screeching halt. And it's not like these numbers of Barry Bonds are just going away into thin air. Like, his records are still recognized. And the fact that you don't have your leading home run hitter, one of the best of all time in terms of OPS, in terms of WAR, I believe he's second, right behind Babe Ruth in Fangraphs calculated WAR. Just utter domination in the last few years of his career when it came to the fear that he instilled in pitchers because he was just setting walk record after walk record. It's insane to me. And yes, the steroids thing, I think, is something that can be discussed. But overall, to me, I'm perfectly capable of forgetting about it because it was the era he played in. Multiple other people, came up for it. And the major point, I think, comes where you take away the steroid years, the dude's still a Hall of Famer. His years in Pittsburgh, his earlier years in San Francisco, before the 2000s turned, he was still one of the best players of all time. And he should, without a doubt, 100% be in the Hall. And the Baseball Writers Association, it's all politics. And it just reared its ugly head again. And, I mean, even Roger Clemens, you look through his stat line and his career achievements. Like, that's a Hall of Famer, guys. I really have nothing else to say. But baseball, it just continuously shoots itself in the foot. And I'm not going to say it ends up making them lose credibility. The Writers Association has no credibility in my mind whatsoever. But the sport as a whole, it just continues to add on pile after pile of negatives that baseball has gone through in the last couple of years. I want to get your guys' thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think if the goal was to not honor Barry Bonds, I think that was a huge failure because social media and all over the world, people are singing his praises. I mean, it's just there's so many things that you look at and you're like, this guy without a doubt deserved to be a Hall of Famer. I'm looking at something right now. David Ortiz's career on base percentage was 380. If you turn every single home run that Barry Bonds hit into outs, his on base percentage is still higher than David Ortiz. I'm not saying David Ortiz didn't deserve to get in. He 100% did. But that's just a testament to how good Barry Bonds really was. And I think it kind of had the reverse effect. I think Barry Bonds was honored all over the world yesterday, even though he didn't get in the Hall of Fame. I just think it's a shame. Some of his accolades are absolutely ridiculous. And yes, without a doubt, the PEDs, no room for it in the sport. But Barry Bonds, even without that, he's still one of the greatest players, like you said, Dan, that we've ever seen. And it's just a shame, man. Like 10 years on the ballot and he can't get in. It's a shame, and he definitely deserved to get in. So, David Ortiz, I'm a Yankees fan, but nothing but respect for David Ortiz. He's one of the most charismatic guys I think we've ever seen play the sport. He was incredibly fun to watch, even if he was tearing my team apart. So shout out David Ortiz. But again, it's just a shame not to see Barry Bonds get in.
I mean,
Hey, I'm gonna throw out there a hot take, which I honestly didn't think would be such a hot take, but I kind of disagree. I mean, I totally get the arguments for it, and if he had gotten in, I wouldn't have thrown a fit or anything about it. But I'm a little bit happy that he didn't, and just in the sense that he kind of laughed in the face for about 5-10 years of the integrity of baseball. I guess what it really comes down to is how much do you care about PEDs? Yeah, a lot of other guys used them, but a lot of those guys didn't get in. Of course, you have Ortiz, who did test positive. That was based off like an anonymous survey or something that they did with them that I don't think was ever actually verified, or I'd have to go back and check on that. But with Ortiz, I think, or with Bonds, I think his numbers, you look at his late 30s, and that's usually, when you start to expect people to decline. He won 4 MVPs in a row. I mean, he dominated the sport, 73 home runs, whatever it is. And I mean, that just doesn't happen. And I think the PEDs, yeah, he was a good player, and I'll 100% buy the argument that if you want to look at him before the Hall of Fame, before he supposedly started using, you can go down that route, and I could agree with that. But I think you kind of have to look at them holistically. When you're going into the Hall of Fame, you kind of have to look at their entire careers and what do they mean to the sport. And I think if you're trying to look at what he did for baseball, I think he helped make baseball popular, but I think he did it in a really bad way. And in my opinion, with the PEDs and everything, all you have to do is look at him. He went from being tiny to huge, and I think it depends on how much you care about the PEDs and the integrity of the game, in my opinion. And I think he pretty much just laughed in the face of all that, and then just went on and did insane things. I agree, but I know I think what he did with the PEDs, I think hurts the sport more than it helps.
Well, I think he just maintained a balanced diet. I think that's how he grew so huge. I think he made sure to eat his Wheaties, eat his green vegetables, all that good stuff. No, I know, I understand what you're saying. In terms of the integrity thing, I will say this, and maybe this is just my attitude towards baseball right now, especially with, a guy like Rob Manfred as commissioner, but baseball as a whole, especially, I want to say, last 10 years, last 20 years, when is baseball at its most popular? It's when it's scandalous. No one really is liking baseball when, it's just plain old boring. I don't know, like the Royals winning the World Series in 2015 did not move the needle for most Americans. But one of the most popular World Series in recent memory is 2017 with the Houston Astros. And everyone hates him now. And that record hasn't gone away. Bonds era, the McGwire Sosa summers of, the home run races. That's when baseball was at its peak. And then you come out of it and you see, oh, hey, these guys were using. And there are two ways you can think about it. It's like, oh, it's the integrity of the game versus entertainment. I think baseball had no choice, really, obviously, but to condemn, the use of steroids. Because, all sports are going to do that. But at the end of the day, from an entertainment level and from a relevancy angle, baseball can't survive, it seems almost, without scandal. And you look at 1997. I was not alive. I don't think any of us were alive for that when the season was lost. But you listen to the older generation who talk about sports, who talk about baseball, and they look at that and they say that lost season lost a lot of my generation. They turn to the NFL, they turn to the NBA, which is booming in popularity right now. And we could see that again, honestly. And it stinks because, once again, momentum was starting to, really come back. If this CBA doesn't happen, we could see that momentum come to a screeching halt, and we could see just apathy and probably the death of baseball. I'm not saying like the MLB is going to fold or anything, but, people aren't, too excited. And as far as the Barry Bonds thing comes, I don't know if this is necessarily a thing that you can point out to and be like, oh, this is why the young generation doesn't care about baseball. I don't think many young people, or at least people younger than us, know who Barry Bonds is. The younger generation, like the TikTok generation, like they like the NBA, but they don't know who Dwayne Wade is, or at the very least, they only know him from 2K. Like, I think that the Barry Bonds thing is just people playing politics, and I don't necessarily think that it's bad for the overall product, but I think it just is like, hey, you have multiple guys who are who you say are leading your all-time categories, and they're not in your museum of greatest players to ever play your sport. What's up with that? Where's the recognition? So that's, I think, what my beef with it is with it. I get your take, I do, Brian, but overall, I would just say that I really do think he deserves to be in the Hall. We can keep going with this. if you guys want to on the other end of the break, if you have anything else to say. But we got to go right now, and then we'll be right back on the other side of it. And yeah, stick around.
And a pleasant good evening from Castle Coliseum as the Virginia Tech Hokies set to play host to the Pittsburgh Panthers here in Blacksburg. Georgia Amor now crosses the timeline for Virginia Tech. Swings it out to Kayla King on the right wing. Caitlin on top of the key, hands it off. Asia Shepard rises and fires for three and drills it. Asia Shepard, she's money from downtown. Count it for Shepard. Tech's up to a 7-4 lead. Deflected away as Kayla King goes back the other direction. Asia Shepard now on the left wing, dribbles it down low. She looks to kick it back out. Kayla King tries NBA three from the left wing, and she drills it. 9 points already for Kayla King, and the Hokies lead it 18-8 over the Panthers. And the rebound goes to the Panthers. Everett tries again from the same spot. That time she's money. Don't give her two chances, Hokies, and Pitt's within 9. Azana Baines now drives down low. Baines goes up for two. It's blocked once again. She recollects with 10 seconds on the shot clock. Back up top to Kiana Traylor. 6 seconds on the shot clock. Traylor drives down low. Traylor still going. She puts it off the glass for two and in with 3 seconds on the shot clock. Kiana Traylor from the left block. She says, how about this? Tech has a 39-23 lead.
Now Pitt charges up the court. Braun takes it by herself, kicks it out, over to Johnson. Johnson for three, and it's good! Kinley gives it right back to Amor. Amor pulls up, and it's good! Amor is having herself a night. She looks great out there, crossing over everybody. She went all the way around the paint. Shepard waits for everyone to get in their spots, get in their places, and she'll take it at the top of the key against Exeter. Lays it up by herself, and it's good! Shepard takes it all the way to the rim and gets the simple layup against Hayford. As Amor now takes the rock, Kitley on her knees sends it all the way out the trailer from the VT logo, almost crosses the timeline as Amor will take it out the VT logo. 4 seconds left on the shot clock. They got to go now. She puts up the shot, and it is good! Shepard now at the top of the key. They descend around to Kitley. Kitley looks for the three-point, does not take it. Greg now gives it back to Kitley. Kitley pulls up from her signature spot, and it's good! Elizabeth Kitley may have just saved the game for the Hokies.
Good evening and welcome inside the Dean Smith Center in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. And it will be Caleb Love passing it over to Manick. Trying to find Black in the paint. Over to Baycott. He goes up and slams it down, returning Aluma's favor. Love back to Baycott, guarded by Aluma. All the way across to find a wide open Leaky Black for three. And the first three-pointer of the night belongs to the Tar Heels. We'll go back to Maddox. Through the hands over to Mutz. Mutz fakes a mid-range jumper to Aluma for three, and Keve Aluma gets the three-point basket. Pass goes back out to Keve Aluma. Naheem Aline for three. That one is good, and we're tied at 19 with 8:15 to play in the first half. Padula misplaces the ball, and RJ Davis scrambles up the floor. Layup is no good. Defensive rebound by Aline. Hands it off to Padula, who's coming up the left wing. Coast to coast will find Aluma, who gets the layup, and the Hokies have the lead. Murphy finds Couture. Quick fire three. That one is good. Big shot for Couture, 35-33.
Now inside to Mutz. Mutz backing down Manick once again. Mutz tries to go up and over Manick. Great defense by the Oklahoma graduate transfer, and up the floor we go. RJ Davis, coast to coast, lays it up and in, plus the foul against Keve Aluma, and RJ Davis reignites this Tar Heel crowd. Caleb Love kicks it out. Leaky Black, right corner three, got it! Leaky Black knocks it down, and he's been lethal from downtown so far tonight. Storm Murphy on the right wing for the Hokies. Dish inside, Justin Mutz slams it down with the right hand, silencing the Carolina crowd. Davis going at Couture, crossover at the ACC logo, kicks it out. Caleb Love thought about a three, goes at the chest of Naheem Aline. Kick out, left wing three for Manick, splashes the net, and gets the crowd right back into it. Go time if you're the Hokies. Kick to Manick, corner three in the air, knocks it down! That could be the dagger! Brady Manick from beyond the arc, and he's a maniac! Caleb Love gives it off to Manick, he's been hot. Corner three, RJ Davis, wide open, and he drills.
Who are catching up. We are talking a little bit of baseball, a little bit of Barry Bonds, not making the Hall of Fame. Honestly, let's just keep rolling with it. I know that Julian and Brian still have a little bit to say on it. So, guys, I'm just going to give you guys the floor here as we continue on here as we get closer and closer to the end of the show.
All right. So I know, Brian, you were talking about the integrity of the game and how sort of he disrespected that. But Bonds, so from 2001 through 2006, Balco and MLB testing records found that he was using anabolic steroids and human growth hormone HGH. But before that, if you look at his career, from basically 1990 to 2000, Barry Bonds didn't have a season where he hit less than 30 home runs. This guy was just a machine when it comes to what he was at the plate. Never had an OPS below 920. And if you look from 1992, he never had an OPS under 1,000. Just the true definition of a generational talent. And, I think keeping this guy out of the Hall of Fame when there's a really solid argument that he was the best player of all time before he took steroids. I think it's just it would be bad for the game of baseball. Honestly, it would be a disgrace to the game if they didn't honor a legend like Barry Bonds, even before he took steroids. So.
Yeah, that's totally fair. And just for the record here, real quick, Clemens and Bonds can still get in based on their Hall of Fame has these committees. There's I think it's called Today's Committee or something like that. Who look every 5 years, you can look at the same player twice, and it's like 16 people. So there's still a chance that just because both of them fell off the ballot doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to get in eventually. I think at this rate, they were close enough that you got to figure at some point they might. But and you were saying earlier about how like the 2017 World Series still stands, and like his home run record still stands. And in my opinion, I mean, I think if you're looking at PEDs and that sort of thing, I think that's the problem with baseball is they have this tendency to try and like say how these people like screwed up the game, let's say with the PEDs, which I do agree with, but then they let the record stand, like you said. And in my opinion, I mean, I don't think they should. I think the 2017 Astros World Series should either have an asterisk or something next to it that's like says what happened. I don't think Bonds' home run record should count because I don't think he would have gotten there per se without PEDs. So I'm of the mind that, yeah, he hit those like top numbers, but I'm not sure he would have gotten there without help. So I don't think those records should stand. A lot of people disagree with that clearly. And I mean, again, I'm not denying that his numbers are absolutely insane. If you go on Baseball Reference, it's like a dream. It's unbelievable. But again, I think I'm not sure he would have gotten to those such high numbers, the high walk numbers, all that sort of thing without PEDs. So yeah, that was the main thing left to say is that they still have a chance. So if you really wanted them to get in, there's still definitely a chance that they could get in. And I will say, just for baseball, I'm of the mind that I think I'm a little bit more positive on that end. I think eventually this lockout issues will get figured out. And I think to the average fan, they might have heard that there was a lockout. But I think chances are we probably start on time if we keep the pace up that we're about to, or we'll just push back spring training. So I think to the average fan, there's a chance that that they will basically have no idea that this sort of thing had gone on.
No, I think you're right on that. That the average casual fan just does not know what's going on at all, and they won't notice anything is wrong until it comes to like, the beginning of April or the end of April, and we don't have a baseball game going on. It's like, wait a minute, isn't the baseball team supposed to be playing today? Nah, until something like that drastic happens, I don't know. I don't know if many people are going to be up in arms about it. I mean, do we want to keep talking baseball? I mean, I think that we covered a good portion of it. I will say, I don't know how confident I am that the today's game ballot will correct this. I know it's more former players, managers, umpires, stuff like that. And seeing the positive response, from that, I think that maybe we can. But until it actually happens and it becomes official, I'm going to hold out my hopes on it. All right, so good baseball discussion today. Let's shift gears here. Today is the 2-year anniversary of Kobe Bryant's passing. And with this, I didn't really want to make it more of like a Kobe legacy thing, only more of a, what have we been doing the last 2 years thing, because honestly, the whole Kobe legacy, remembrances and commemorations, that whole period of time, like that month around the date, I think a lot of that was covered. This to me has always just kind of been like the day where everything started to fall apart. January 2020, obviously coronavirus was a thing, but it wasn't quite what we think of it now. To me, it is one of the few moments in my life where it's like I remember what I was doing when I heard the news. I don't have many of those, but this is definitely, this honestly might be the biggest one, because I know that we were all alive for 9/11, but we couldn't speak in coherent sentences, so it's not like we could do that. Other than that, it's like this, and it's the Boston Marathon bombing. Those are the two things to me that really stick out. It's like, hey, I remember where I was when this happened. I remember I was on campus. I was doing a roundtable for WUVT Sports, and I just kind of walked out and checked my phone, and Twitter was going up because it had happened like 4 minutes earlier. And there was a lot of doubt, and I think TMZ got it first, so there was a lot of people questioning the legitimacy of it. And then it was just a disgusting day for journalism, because so many people were trying to claim that his entire family was with him. Some people claimed that it was everyone but his wife. I think I saw some people say it was just him, until it was finally revealed that it was just him and his daughter Gianna. And then obviously we've gone through these last 2 years where it's just been utter chaos. We've had lockdowns, we haven't had lockdowns, we've had mask mandates, we haven't had mask mandates, we've had vaccines, we've had riots, we've had protests, we've had everything in between. And you throw a presidential election in there, why don't you? So I don't know. Just kind of look back 2 years from now, how different things were. What were your guys' thoughts on it? And obviously it isn't the cause for everything else that spiraled, but would you agree with me that this is just kind of like the moment where it seems the last 2 years have just kind of gone awry?
Yeah, I want to start by saying this is one of two events. Like Dan, you said you remember where you were when the Boston Marathon happened and when Kobe Bryant died. I remember exactly where I was when Michael Jackson passed away, and I remember exactly where I was when Kobe Bryant passed away. When Michael Jackson passed away, I was actually at a Washington Nationals baseball game, and my dad, being a huge Michael Jackson fan, it kind of ruined his night a little bit. But when Kobe passed away, I was actually just getting off a broadcast with our sports director, Jake Lyman. I can't remember who. It was Tech Women's Basketball. I believe it was Miami. And the sinking feeling in my stomach was just, I still remember exactly how I felt. That day, it was hard to do much of anything just because of how somber it was, and how much of an impact Kobe Bryant has had on my life. Not only watching him play basketball, but I've read some of his books. I've seen the impact he's had around the globe. And yeah, that was a day that kind of kicked off, like you said, Dan, kind of kicked off everything. And something really interesting from this whole thing came when TMZ first reported it, even before the family knew. And this is something that's going to be studied I already had in one of my sports journalism courses, we talked about it, had a very in-depth discussion about it, because it is, it does have something to do with journalist integrity, when you're either trying to get it out first or you're trying to be respectful in a situation like this. And in this situation, TMZ decided to, go ahead and just report it when they first heard about it without informing the family. And I think that was definitely wrong. And especially with the ambiguity of who was actually involved in it. And, that was just a day, seeing the reaction from the whole sports world. I remember an interview in specific with Jay Williams. One of the most, you sit down and listen to it, and it's hard not to, feel emotions about it. And in the coming days, listening to and watching the memorial at Staples Center, just the effect that had on a lot of people's lives, including myself, it reverberated for about a month and a half, and it still does. This day, not only is it the anniversary, but I remember this every day. I think about it quite a bit, because it's just, and all the other lives lost involved in that. Some of Gigi's teammates, and obviously the pilot. One of the most horrific and emotionally devastating incidents I've ever experienced personally. And it still rings true this day. I mean, Kobe Bryant still has impacts on a lot of people in the sports world. I saw Stephen A. Smith wearing a Kobe Bryant jacket this morning, and I'm sure there's going to be other signs of respect throughout the NBA and throughout other sports today as, people show up to practice games, whatnot. So Kobe Bryant's impact will be felt throughout the rest of the history of the sport. So it's a sad day, but it's also a celebration of the life of Kobe Bryant, someone that was truly impactful to so many people's lives.
I can tell you, I mean, you and I were both, us three were all college freshmen at that time. I can tell you when I found out the news, I mean, you're saying it was on a call. I may have found out the next morning. I may have not been on Twitter if it was at night. I just remember I could not do anything that day. I feel like and even though I feel like there was more basketball I watched, particularly NBA, something about specifically Kobe Bryant and what he was able to bring not only to the sport but to the community as a whole. I would be surprised if people not only of people that may have not even known him or known him for what he's done through multiple avenues, but on top of that, wouldn't have kind of appreciated him as a person. I was just kind of dumbfounded in a sense. I remember that day, I guess a personal thing is what I believe. Yeah, no, it's like that day I thought about my father even in a sense. Just the fact that Kobe Bryant is just, you don't see this happen with many celebrities or sports personalities that you might know. And it's like, he passed before, my father. My father's older than him. And, there's obviously nothing there. But it's just like, it just was crazy. It's not something you would ever expect. And the outpour of love that came after it was great to have. And there's all the respects and all the love that will continue to come from his legacy. The only thing I even remember from that time was that's probably one of the worst times of year we've ever had. If you remember the month prior, Juice WRLD passed. Then Kobe Bryant passed. Then I believe there was something that happened in February, and then obviously you had coronavirus. It's obviously been very hard since then. Life has not been anywhere close to the same as what it once used to be. But this is, I mean, just to keep it completely focused on Kobe, it's just all the best for his family. And it was one of the things I'm gonna remember for the rest of my life.
Yeah. For me, I was a senior in high school, and I had actually just come back from basketball practice on that Sunday, and I was in shock, man. Like at first, I saw the notification on my phone. I couldn't really believe it, and yeah, I mean, I was really upset for 3 hours. Like I didn't know what to do with myself. This guy was an icon. You know, in 2008, 2009, when I first started watching basketball, a kid, I remember him in the finals, and just that relentlessness, and that approach to just life in general. And I felt like this was the first icon that I had watched that I had grown up with because he was always on the screen. I felt like I knew him, just because of, how iconic his voice was. He had just started that Detail series on ESPN Plus. And it really was a shame, but I'm happy his legacy is being carried on today. I know you didn't really want this to become remembering Kobe 3304 daily episode, but this guy was just such a great human being. And and yeah, this was kind of started the downturn for COVID. The pandemic obviously started just a month and a half after that. So yeah, I mean, what else is there to say? I really miss him, but it is a shame.
Yeah, good to go around. It definitely is crazy, just once again, to think about how long it's been. It feels like, I don't know. To you guys, what would you say? Does it feel more long or short in terms of the last 2 years? Because I mean, when you think back to it, it's like it's a pinpoint in time. It feels like, oh man, it almost feels like yesterday. But then you think, oh man, think about all the stuff that's happened. No, it's just crazy. All right, want to move on here. Last thing of the day, last order of business. Virginia Tech plays basketball tonight, and we are all confused as to how Vegas and ESPN's Basketball Power Index think that this is just a throwaway game for VT. Like I think the BPI has Tech at about an 80% chance to win this game. Vegas has Tech as about a 5-point favorite. Look, they've been playing everyone close, and metrically they're still okay. You know, top 50-ish team, but I really don't see how this game is anything else other than a nail biter, because every other game is in some capacity. Can I just come out right now and say, oh yeah, they're gonna win? No, I can't do that. I can't say that they lose tonight. It's where I lean, just because, I mean, what tonight am I going to see that's different than, you know, any other game so far? I really don't know if we were going to see anything different. If we do, it'd be a great surprise. I just don't know what it's going to be. So I don't know. Do you guys have thoughts on this? We're all surprised as to what the, you know, attitude towards this game is.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost. You know, I don't really know where they see Virginia Tech winning this game by 5 points. Mostly because Miami's a good basketball team. I feel like they're one of those teams that they're kind of moving in silence. You don't really know that they're this good, because coming in the season, I don't think they're predicted to be very good. I can't remember exactly where they were, maybe on preseason ACC standings, but I don't believe they're very high. But you look at Miami, their schedule recently, they took down Wake Forest, who's one of the better teams in the ACC this year. Another team that was not expected to be all that great, but they're playing really good basketball. They took down Duke at Duke, a 2-point victory. 1 point loss to Florida State, a team that is really turning it on as of late. They've actually lost to Florida State twice now by a combined 2 points. And Dan, thank you. Miami was preseason number 12 in the ACC poll. So this is a team that is sitting at the top of the standings right now. And a 28-point victory against a team Virginia Tech just lost to by 10 in Chapel Hill over the Tar Heels. So again, I don't really see this. I think there's still believers in Virginia Tech in terms of getting in the tournament maybe, and even to, you know, regain momentum in the ACC. So I think maybe that's where it's coming from. But again, Miami is a very good basketball team. And Virginia Tech, I think a key, if they want to pull this one out, they've got to finish the ball game. You look at the other night, you know, it's a tight game until the very end. North Carolina just had that last gear in them. And Virginia Tech hasn't shown the ability to access that last gear, you know, not being able to close out some games. So I think that's the key tonight. But again, I think Miami wins this game. And the 5-point line is a little bit puzzling.
Yeah, it's definitely puzzling to me, particularly as you said, with how good Miami's been. I feel like I think the good bit of it has to be that there's still some hope from the writers for Virginia Tech, right? I mean, you had a lot of guys from lots of stations. I believe what John Rothstein even saying that, you know, we were one of the dark horses, and that everyone was really starting to fall in love with this team with Mike Young and the talent that they had. And I mean, you know, who can blame them? A lot of the VT fan base was excited as well. So I think that's clearly one of them. I think another one is, though, yes, it's Florida State. Yes, they're now tied technically with the advantage for the top of the ACC. They still have lost 2 out of their last 3 games. So I think that that's maybe another factor they're putting in, that maybe Miami could be hitting a downswing, though, as Dan and you have mentioned, Ryan, they just blew out North Carolina in between that by 33. So I don't know how much of a downswing this team's in. The only thing that I could really factor, in which I think we've seen with Virginia Tech basketball, is over the past few years, it's something I know I've talked about, the interior defense of this team has been probably the weakest point of it. And I don't know if there's anyone on Miami that's going to really like dominate that interior on us and like out rebound and everything. I mean, there's people that could probably drive on us, sure. I'm not saying I know everything about Miami, But when you look at their top scorers and you look at like their team as a whole, they seem like they're relatively small, with the one forward being 6'10", and they have a senior center probably that's coming off like the bench getting really no minutes, who's 7 foot. That's it. They don't really have a height advantage on us or a height equality. So it's going to be, I would assume, fairly similar games. And I think that if you have Keve Aluma and Justin Mutz really use their bodies as they could, I can see why ESPN has this close. Maybe not still in Virginia Tech's favor. I still think that's a little bit of a stretch, but having it closer, if Keve and Mutz will use their size and their strength, absolutely, I could see that.
Right. And Sam Wardenberg is their starting 5-man. His numbers aren't very impressive this year. Averaging only 3.6 rebounds a game, only 8 points a game. Right. So Virginia Tech does have an advantage on the interior. So if Virginia Tech can get some inside out going, feed Keve Aluma early in the game, get him going, and then that can set up their outside shooters. Hunter Couture needs to be more aggressive when he's looking for his shots, in my opinion. And when Darius Maddox and Sean Padula get on the court, they also need to be aggressive. I think this game should be more closer to a pick 'em than a 5-point spread that Virginia Tech's getting. But yeah, I mean, I think there's a pretty easy and recognizable path for Virginia Tech to win this game and get their feet going in the right direction in conference play.
Yeah, hopefully tonight is a bounce back game. I'm kind of in a conversation with one of my friends right now. Just a quick update here. Let's do a little bit of college Let's do a little bit of college football. It's ending off the show. Why not? So this is from Nicole Auerbach from The Athletic, a Big Ten analyst. Iowa AD Gary Barta tells Scott Docterman that there are serious discussions happening about both the Big Ten ending divisional play and also dropping down to 8 conference games starting in 2023 to schedule games against the Pac-12 and ACC. So the alliance is in motion, and that means, let's just keep it regional. Virginia Tech could see some, more games coming up against, Big Ten and Pac-12 opponents. I've always been excited about the alliance. Now, personally, for me, when it comes to like the playoff and stuff like that, I prefer if conferences all play 9 games. I would prefer if the ACC moved to a 9-conference game schedule. But as long as the out-of-conference schedule, like if we're playing a Big Ten team and a Pac-12 team every year in the non-conference, and then you throw in 2 more, like Group of 5, FCS level schools, I'm okay with that because I want to see those big name matchups. I would love, this is why I like the Pac-12 being part of the alliance. I want to see a West Coast team. I want to see Tech play UCLA and go play in the Rose Bowl or something. That would be incredible. So that gets me excited. I don't know about you guys before we close out the show here.
Yeah, I think, especially from a fan experience, looking at this, aside from the football aspect, I think it'd be really exciting. I personally was excited when Penn State was scheduled to come in about the meshing of the fan bases. 2 very passionate fan bases coming together for a football game that usually don't play each other. I think that is a whole nother level of excitement. I mean, you talk about some of the passionate Big Ten fan bases like Iowa coming to Blacksburg, meshing with a group of fans they've never meshed with before. And just on the field, especially too, matchups that we haven't seen before, it could be really, really exciting. And I hope that moves in the right direction because it could be a very lucrative and successful, combination with the Big Ten and the ACC.
It's definitely a really exciting prospect. I don't know exactly where I lie on this because I'm excited with the aspects of being able to come up against these not only kind of new schools in a sense, but also being able to just have even better competition. But I think when this has been discussed like prior to the college football season, I'm worried about the smaller colleges possibly becoming even smaller because, our playing likes of Richmond and Liberty and whatnot can be good for their programs, particularly if those schools are to win. But no, I mean, I think adding some bigger non-conference games and possibly even just having games against better opponents as a whole would be nice. I do think that this is an exciting idea with the alliance. And it would be really cool for Virginia Tech to be able to come up against some of those schools. Like, I mean, as Dan mentioned, UCLA could be a really fun one. I mean, Michigan State, you could literally have a clash between your teams and whatnot. So I think it's an exciting idea.
Yeah, definitely a good thing to close out the show on. All right, there is our time. So we want to thank you guys for listening. We'll catch you tomorrow. Everyone stay safe and have a great day.